Hello, friends. It's Chops, and welcome to another Chops vlog. We are in BFA. Yay! I think of all the expansions that we have access to, BFA is my favorite. I mean, I really liked MOP. Don't get me wrong, but BFA rules. And I realized that like the end game, a lot of people didn't really like the end game with like the borrowed power systems and all that, and the Heart of Azeroth grind. I understand was a little tedious. I don't know. And then like the weird what was it like the Cthulhu type invasions at the end was a little odd. I like the aesthetic a lot. Big fan of the Cthulhu mythos and any homages to it. But I remember doing a few of those on my 60 and thinking it was a little tedious. Anyways, it is to say, I understand the end game of BFA was not everybody's favorite, but the stuff we have access to as 20s is awesome. I love it. I think Kultiris is probably my favorite continent. Tiragard Sound, Drustvar, and Stormsong Valley are all really well designed zones. They fit together well as a continent. And it is Tiragard Sound especially, but then also like the surrounding areas of it feel real sized. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Azeroth in World of Warcraft is significantly smaller than Azeroth in the books and the lore. For instance, Goldshire is like a day or a day and a half ride from Stormwind in the lore and the books. In the game, it's a minute. It's a minute from Stormwind, right? So everything is very much like scaled down drastically because you wouldn't want to play a game where it took you an entire day and a half of riding just to get from one town to the other, right? And then if they just teleport you around, it doesn't feel like a real world, right? So they scaled it down so that it could feel like a real world. But Tiragard Sound and especially Borealis and sort of like the outlying areas feel almost real scale. Almost, not fully, but almost. Like Borealis feels like a real city. Like there's the little like trade district, and then like you can jut off and go around to like there's a whole bar district you can go hang out in. There's all these cool little shops that you can walk into, and they don't, there's not like anything that sells anything that you is really neat or fancy or anything. But it is very interesting, I guess, as a city, and it's designed and feels like a real city. And then it has these real feeling little like outskirts around it, like sort of almost suburban sprawl almost, which is very cool. And I really, really like the way all this is to say, I really love the way that they designed Kultiris on the whole and Borealis specifically. Just awesome. So I'm very happy to be in Battle for Azeroth as I try to find and remember where I'm supposed to go with the questing. I remember loving the questing experience when I went through this on my 60 initially when Battle for Azeroth was current. And it is living up to memory. I'm kind of disappointed in myself for doing the Tiragard Sound quests so quickly at the beginning, because I feel like I kind of missed that neat flow from one into the other. And the Tiragard Sound quests were pretty cool, but that's kind of got to do what you got to do when when a big squish patch or a big squish X pack launches. You don't really have the luxury of doing it the way you would prefer sometimes. So. I'm running through Drustvar now. We're getting all this questing out of the way. I'm about somewhere between a third and a half of the way through it, and it is really fun. I'm not a huge fan of like horror movies, but I do really enjoy like the aesthetic of folk horror. You know, like the old gods of the forest and the old gods of the mountains, and that sort of like wicker construct look with like the rotation of the seasons being a part of sort of like the witchcraft and worship of these old gods and that kind of thing. And Drustvar really gets at that kind of aesthetic. It's very cool. So I enjoy that, and then like the story of like the coven slowly taking over the zone, and then you having to kind of sort that out and figure out what the motives of the coven are and eliminate them, and then find the missing lord and lady of the zone and that kind of thing. Spoiler alert. Yeah. So you gotta get all in there, and it's very cool little like quest line, and so I'm really enjoying it. Where we are kind of finishing up the other expansions, Legion Engineering was very expensive. It cost me like 2 gold caps, 3 gold caps, somewhere in there, and I'm still not done with it. Reason being, the last like 15 points of it require recipes that I don't have access to, I don't think. The boon, the engineering shoulder enchant boon that drops the chest that would drop the recipes in it, I don't think we can get. The guy that sells them doesn't have them available to me. It may be a reputation thing. It may be locked by a quest we can't do. I'm not sure. But I can't get those. And I do have one recipe for a pet that is still currently red and can give me skill points to level. But it requires 50 blood of Sargeras a piece. And there's no really efficient way to get those that don't involve some kind of creative use of game mechanics, which I'm not really sure I want to get too far involved in. Plus, still farming up like 600 blood of Sargeras is a chore, man. So what I think I'm going to do is use my Darkmoon Fair engineering level ups to finish off Legion Engineering, which is going to take another 3 months. So let's see, we just did July's Darkmoon Fair, so August, September, October. I won't finish Legion Engineering until October. And only then can I start BFA Engineering, because Darkmoon Fair gives you the most recent expansion that you have that you haven't finished. And I'm not entirely sure. Again, it might involve some creative use of game mechanics, but finishing BFA Engineering, I think, requires getting into Nazjatar, which may be possible. It may just be something as simple as a summon. I haven't really looked into it, but I'm not entirely sure 20s can get in there without doing some shady stuff. So I'm not entirely sure I can finish that off. I might have to really look into it. But if I can't finish off BFA Engineering without also doing the Darkmoon Fair level ups, then we might be in trouble. It might not be we might not finish all of my engineering, leveling all of the different expansions engineering for, it might be March of next year, depending on how much I can get done in BFA without getting into Nazjatar, or if getting into Nazjatar is fairly easy, that won't take too long. Anyways, it's definitely going to be October before I finish Legion Engineering and even look at getting into BFA. So, fun. Legion Cooking, I'm working on. Apparently, getting through Legion Cooking requires daily work orders, which mean I have to farm up mats to give to a chef, and the chef does an 8-hour or a next day turnover to give you cooking materials, and may, in doing that, learn recipes that you can use to level cooking. I could probably level cooking with a bunch of the recipes that I currently know, but I also want to make sure that I get and learn all of the recipes. That's important. That's part of it, is learning all of the recipes that I can, not just leveling the profession. So we're going to do that too. I'm doing that daily. Panda cooking, still working on gathering mats through farming and fishing. Basically what I've done is to finish all of this up, because I don't want to do it one at a time, right? Like the idea initially was to do it one at a time just to kind of get like the experience of playing through the game. But with Dragonflight coming out in 6 months, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to get it all done at once. So I've set up like a daily task list that I'm going to go through every day and farm up some mats I need for Legion cooking, do some mats I need for Panda cooking, and all of that. And so I have like a rotation. I'm going to have to do some farming at the Half Hill Farm. I'm going to have to do some fishing out in Pandaria. I'm going to have to do mat farming out in Legion. I'm going to have to do a lot of mat farming mining wise in BFA just so I can prep for that. Like part of this crunch is that like I could have been doing all of this concurrently, but I wanted to do it in sequence rather than concurrently, again, to get that like feeling of a one at a time playthrough. And so, but that's kind of come back and bit me in the butt, because now I have very little time left in this expansion to finish up what I wanted to do in this expansion. And I'm probably not going to be able to get it all done just because of how long it'll take me to level like engineering through Darkmoon Faire stuff. So I want to get at least as much of the rest of it done as I can. And that means doing all of it at once, instead of like, if I had started working on Legion engineering, back when I was starting like this whole project, like I'd be done with it by now. It wouldn't be an issue. So that's kind of a bummer in hindsight, really. But I also thought that we would have until, like I initially thought Dragonflight was coming out this year, and then I got in some discussions with some folks about like the length of arena seasons and all of that, and we had kind of been convinced that no, actually it's not coming out this year. It'll be coming out spring of 2023. And so I thought I had all this time left to do all this, and I was pretty cool with it, but nope. But that is to say, like we are moving along with it. We're also got a couple of different, like, I don't want to say side projects, but like kind of working. I was playing some Battlegrounds with the boys and discovered, not really discovered because I already kind of knew, Sword and Board Arms isn't terrible. In other words, instead of using like this big two-handed weapon, if I swap to Sword and Board, like you can see here, instead of Mortal Strike, you get Shield Slam, which is objectively worse. Like, it's a longer cooldown, it's less damage, it doesn't have the healing reduction. But it doesn't do terrible damage. And this is with my like low eye level artifact on. Like my damage tooltips are quite a bit lower than my two-hander tooltips. Like Colossus Smash does 492 with a two-hander. It does 454 with a sword and board. But that's still big damage. The other thing that's good is that Shield Slam doesn't cost rage, right? So you don't really have anything to spend your rage on except Ignore Pain, Shield Block. Hey, check that out. Ignore Pain, Shield Block, and Execute. So you can get some big sudden death procs with this, especially if you're using better weapons than just my eye level 24 artifacts, right? Like if I was using, say, Cudgel of Gnarlax and like a socket shield or something. I've looked at the tooltips with that equipped, and the damage isn't far off. Like it's like this is like 40 points, but if you put in like a Cudgel and Gnarlax and like a Socket Shield, the tooltip damage is pretty close. It's obviously still less, and obviously Shield Slam is worse than Mortal Strike. I'm not trying to say this is a better way to play arms, but I am saying that if you were to equip yourself correctly, and you went into sort of like the right comp, like let's say, like into a monk rogue comp, or if there was a situation where you were fighting a goodly amount of melee, right? You could actually be really quite good because you could keep shield block up almost consistently every time it came up and ignore pain, which would allow you to mitigate a lot of damage from melee, right? Which you're already kind of a king of melee, but it's kind of... Anyways, which is to say, there is a lot of survivability in Sword and Board arms, especially if you were to pair it with something like the Essence of Gossamer Trinket, which has a proc that reduces damage from each attack by like 94. So if you were to pair that with Ignore Pain, Shield Block, and Essence of Gossamer, you would end up with a really strong mitigation profile on your warrior. So I've been playing with that a little bit. I don't think it's going to like take over the meta or anything, but it's kind of funny, which is to say you should do it at some point if you want to try it. I've also been, I think I mentioned this earlier, I've been working on a level 16 T-Mog farmer based on some of the advice and progress of some of the more hardcore farmers in the bracket, so that I can get like a Bulwark of Azeroth. Well, it would be the Blackrock Bulwark from WoD, but anyways, I can get that transmog. So I got that farmer together, and yeah, that's kind of it, man. So we are setting up for the free-to-play end game, and we will be there very quickly. And that end game will unfortunately involve catching up on a lot of the expansion professions that I did not get to in my rush to sort of start getting this done. But yeah, not exactly what I had planned out in terms of like finishing the game, if you will. But it is an adjustment that needed to be made. So that's what we're doing now. And yeah, man, I covered a lot. Man, I rambled, and I feel like it kind of made some sense and moved somewhat coherently from one subject to another. Anyways, yeah, that's kind of going to be the end of this Chopsvlog. No real like grand theme or anything, but just kind of my thoughts of what I'm going on through the week. And hope you guys have a good 3-day weekend. Thanks for hanging out, as always, and I will talk to you all next time.